The meeting to the order. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge our new town manager, no longer assistant town manager, but town manager. Tonight's gonna be a little bit different. It's more of a presentation and then answer questions afterwards. Our goal is to go through tonight, and hopefully, if we have questions tonight, we can maybe address them. If not, leave it, continue the meeting until Thursday morning. Have your chance to submit comments, or you come to the Thursday meeting itself and offer your comments, so we can address anything that's outstanding. We don't want to rush through and feel that there's a lot to look at tonight, and how we got to this point, and it may muddle if you had a chance to even think through what's going on. But we want to make sure everybody has a chance to respond. So, I'd like to do this a little different. I'd like to go to the podium, what I'm used to. What's ironic is, through the years, I've been on the other side of the table answering questions when we went to design a building or facility. And this time it's nice to be on the opposite side asking the question. May have been an unfair advantage to the consultant. You were get it going.
Your mic's not on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Before I start, I'd like to thank the staff for all their work on this. It's taken some time and out of their normal routine. Also, the board members, especially Commissioner Thomas, for their time on the committee to help design this. And a special thanks to our county clerk, Rochelle. She made it happen. So, to get started on first thing is the agenda that we've got for tonight to kind of give us a guide. First off is a history recap, and that's just to keep those informed of where we were before we started, how we got there, where we're going. The design team process, the form follows function, that's a normal design standard. And the form being the function being the floor plans, and the form follows the floor plans to add a shape to the building that's ours. The building alternatives, budget considerations, and timeline. So let's go into the history recap. In 2019, Mike Rose was the manager at that point. He contracted with Sawyer Sherwood, engineering firm, architectural firm in Wilmington, do a facility study. They went through the facility studies, looking at our buildings, our age, and basically said, we need to catch up. And so at that point, we started looking toward the future and knew we were not ready and we needed help and how to do that. So in 2022, we purchased the tower lots, and this used to be considered Brain property. And it's right across from Larry's Deli. It includes the towers, i.e. the tower lot. And we purchased that with plans to build the building. Then our next thing in 2023, thanks to Mayor Smith at that time, he approached legislators and we got an allocation of $8 million, which is basically we've never gotten that much at any one time. So that was a major accomplishment. Of course, he went for 15 and got 8, but that's still good. And then in 2024, we went with a design build firm, and we chose to design build over a design bid for the simple fact that we weren't sure what we wanted. And in a design bid, you have to almost go through the full design, then bid the project act to understand what your costs are. And that we felt we were going to be behind the 8 ball on that. So we went with the design build, which it goes hand in hand. It's with the contractor that in real time produces estimates as to what our design is. So that allows us to make choices, changes, and within days we have what the cost impact is going to be. Then we went through, with the design build. Our first run at it was, as we all know, three options. And I think they were met with different levels of opposition, I would say. But you know, it was good. But that's how we had to get it forward. And so once that was done, we went into the building, revised building scope and budget, and the board set a $9 million budget, and that dictates the scope of the building. So that got us moving. And what we were challenged with is our three options is looking at a hybrid with the administrative building completely eliminated. So that's how we started. We created the design team, which was the two members on the board, myself and the staff, mainly to be able to work outside of the public uh, meeting law, because we couldn't have the whole board at any meeting. It would just be so cumbersome, we'd probably not get anything done. So this way we were able to work in a smaller group, really address the issues and go after it and get a response back to the board and to you. Our next is the initial design. In January of 2024, this is the design that was presented. And it was the third floor town hall. The second floor was police and fire. And the cost and it had a flat roof. And to be honest, that just doesn't look like Topsail beach or any. So we're kind of problems there. And the cost estimate was 13.3 million. That was far exceeded our ability on our budget because we were entering into a deficit on our BIS and beach nourishment, and then this coming up, and it just drove our tax rate up, and it was not acceptable. This was the initial design, and the board considered the cost of full public safety building in town hall as too high. It was too much. We couldn't do it. The third floor was rejected, and the rest is just like work and the design for our community. It just wasn't fit. And we move forward. Form follows function. This is true probably in any design or good design, that you always get the function going and then try to massage it to have the form that you really want. That's all worked except for the platypus. I have to say, you know, they got short-handed on that one, and I think it was just a design to see if we were paying attention. The operational needs were established by the fire and police departments, and that's important that they need to know what they know what they want, and a lot of it is we can't interject in it of what we want for them to do. They can't change their operations to match what we think they should have. So they carry the load a lot to make sure it does function the way they can. Floor plans were evaluated for space needs, flow, and function. Again, trying to get the scope back down to where we can afford it. Fire response dictates interior layout. How we get the firemen from the quarters inside to the fire trucks and to the fire is critical. A minute lost is a minute they're not on fight, and that can make a big difference. So they really have to go back to the process of how do we do it? What's the best way to do it? Police processing dictates the location of police entrance and layout. And that's important. You really don't want to mix. If we have a public going in through one door and Sam's having to bring up the detainee through the other door or through that same door, it could give a confrontation that's not needed. So I think we've worked that out so that Sam has a separate entrance. He can get the people in and out and not have to worry about interaction with the public. Also, I guess when we were talking, what Sam has to do in the building, is he think we should take a tour, but I don't think any of us want to experience it firsthand. So, Sam, you're safe on that. Right. And the next was location of layout of set of respective departments. So we're back to relying on them to tell us what they need. And then we start evaluating it from another set of eyes to see if there's any changes or streamlining or performance that can be done. Mainly it's value engineering. Go into function. And function, this is the start of when we set the committee back together. In June 16th, we established a revised scope on a $9 million project. And that was important that we had to give the consultants what we felt we needed and some certain parameters that would be, they'll be able to work within. So we reduced the footprint of the building, reviewed construction systems, possible wood frame construction over steel. Is that best? Is it cost savings? Do we lose quality and protection that we have? Review of the apparatus bay width and layout, and back to the chief. Review of shared spaces so that we were not over providing, but working it out so that we didn't have space that was not efficient. Establish the building design within the project budget. That was important as to what it was going to look like. And then review of the interior flow. That's mainly the halls, making sure the halls were efficient, no dead space, and places that we just lose efficiency. Identify add alternates with associated costs. That's important with the design build because we could do the what ifs, as I've always called them. What if we change this wall? What if we change this system? And we got real-time cost estimates, so we weren't flying blind or just making wild guesses. The last rejection of the flat roof, I think that's common sense in this particular area. Our storms just really would wreak havoc on the flat roof. January and July 9th, we convened again, continue with the building footprint reviews, discuss the use of engineering building for apparatus day. Basically, what we want that in the past we call buttons. They've gone a long ways from those early days, but this is a different structure than what we were looking at, and there was a cost saving. So again, we chalked that up with design build. We were able to know what the impact would be. Then they evaluate the ground floor layout 3 or 4 days. Secure parking for police and equipment stores. That's something that Sam needs both for his vehicles and also for the equipment that we have. That just an example, the ADA cycles that we have on the beach. We have to have a place to store them, and Sam manages that program. Discuss office and support spaces, again, looking at the efficiency. Eliminated the third stairway to enhance usable space and cut cost again. So we're very attentive to what it's going to cost us to build this building, and we're trying to get it back down without losing quality. Value engineering, we change the building support, podium design. How our building is brought up, we have to raise it above the ground. We have steel columns, concrete columns, a masonry column. So we looked at all those, again, back to design build, we knew what the cost of each one was going to be. And also the podium design, what's under, or right on top of those columns on that first floor. Is it waterproof, or is it something that's going to have to be replaced? Is moisture resistant? And so we came up with a gypcrete type material. It's almost like a swimming pool, but it works. And it's something that can withstand a lot of moisture. And of course, if it floods at the 14 to 15 foot level, all bets are off. So, but we did look at that as well. And we looked at the changing window type. Our first initial run was store windows, storefront windows, commercial grade, a little bit higher cost, and they're non-operable. And then we looked again with the contractor at a vinyl clad window that could be operable, and we wouldn't really lose quality or the storm retardant or storm protection. So we thought that was a good choice as well. Then we had discussions of the fourth bay, vehicle accessory, vehicle and accessory vehicle storage and equipment, potential EMS in future, accessibility of equipment. Some of these conversations I'll have later as we get in some of our conversations with the county. But we did look at those, that's what the impacts will be. We evaluated the door widths. That's something else will come up later. Some of it was a little comical. We had a good demonstration of it. All toilets and shower facilities converted to unisex. Rooms only. I don't think fixtures or anything like that. You just don't have urinals anymore. So, evaluation alternatives were a consideration of appropriate cost. So the alternates that we were looking at, again, we had the cost of what it was going to be. And I think as we go through this whole program, that was really strong, that we knew what was going on at all time in terms of dollars. The 23rd review, the fourth day was considered as essential, and that came from our discussions with the chief and other options. And it roughly has 2.5% on our budget to get that fourth day. And that fourth day is going to be critical in some cases. We don't know. It provides us with space, but it also provides an opportunity for EMS. I did have a conversation with the county and the EMS. This is Station 4. There are no current plans to abandon or relocate the EMS. However, it's going through the same restructuring as the fire services for the county. And that cost to the county is going to be astronomical. To combine all these things to pay the equipment cost, also employment. So that cost is going to go up, and you know where that's going to come from. So we have, that's factored in, they have to replace that building and upgrade their EMS, and we have a spot for them. Common sense says we might stand a chance of getting on for good. That was one thing we played hard on. We need to secure a ground floor storage needed by the police. Stormwater system location, part of it under the building for collection, then outside the building for infiltration. Ground entrance location separated from the legacy missile tower. We felt that the missile tower needed to be included and not just an afterthought that we have the tower. We need to keep it as part of our heritage. So how do we work it in? Rear entrance provides secure police access to the second floor. The need for the 14-foot bays. This is where it got a little comical. The fire department put together a demonstration to basically have that existing truck, which is our new truck, will be a little bit wider. And in this particular case, our fire department had to modify the side mirrors to pull them in because we have 12 feet doors. And the 12 feet doors don't leave a lot, as you can see. And of course, they offered any of the commissioners that were there to have a chance to back it in. There's where it got a little comical. And to be right honest, I understand it. Think about getting your larger vehicle in your own garage. You know, there are times you kind of have to back up and forth a few times. The other that even in this situation, in pulling out over the years, in a fire situation, they move quickly and sometimes cut corners, get out thinking they've gotten through the door. They run into the side 3 times, and the overall cost has been $120,000 to repair. So we looked at why do we want to go through that again? You know, be a surprise money. The next is the need for the fourth day. And as you can see, the equipment is crowded in the current spaces. And if you think of your own garage, it's the same thing. If you got one, you're going to fill it up. And in this case, there is a need for some additional space. And then back to the EMS potential. I just don't want to lose EMS off the island. I'm reaching the age I need them. I don't want to wait for them to come from somewhere else if there's any chance at all to keep them here. So that's just my personal opinion on that. The 23rd continued. Yeah, we revised the office space location for fire and police. We continued to work down to squeeze things down. Revised the workflow, revised the fixtures in the unisex bathrooms, discussed bunk rooms. How many do we really need? How many bunks are in there? Can it be shared? Will chief and both chiefs, will they stay in their own office and have a pull-out bed or something of that nature? It was just, how is that all going to work? And we reached I guess, a good compromise on that. Reduction of the lobby area for efficiency. This is not an area that needs a big lobby. If you're coming to the police department, you're either coming to the police or going to the fire. And chances are you're not going to be sitting outside waiting. Discussed the roof line to eliminate the flat roof. We just felt flat roof was not what we wanted. Discussed additional siding boards for changing the fence on the parking level exterior. And that's one thing, at the lower part, in order to get security for Sam, we need to enclose it. And so the two choices that we had were boards, horizontal boards that would actually connect from the ground to the first floor, or putting up the chain link fence. That was kind of the choices. And chain link fence just, that was terrible. And so we went with the boards. Well, we'd like to go with the board. Now we go into the final floor plan. And we have these blow up poster boards after the meeting to look at, and they'll be here if you want to come tomorrow or something to just look at them, get better acquainted with them. But in this one, we have it set up so that it is has the ground floor with parking under the building, some entry area and performance areas for storage and off of the fire department, and then full day arrangement. Next one is the final floor plan. As you can see, it gets a little busy, but it's tight. There's no room wasted. The corridors are efficient. The movements, there are no closets that are vacant or no corners that haven't been filled up. So I feel we're getting the best bang for our buck right now. Okay, form. Form is very important to the board, and I guess it goes a lot with the philosophy of our island. You know, Topsail is not just a place, but it's a feeling. We come to Topsail and it's family oriented. We don't have the high rises, don't have the motels. We got a quaint beachside community. And I think it's our goal and probably our responsibility to lead it that way. This building's going to be here long after we're not. Not that I want that to happen. Okay, the form starting in January, this is what we were starting with. We have a 3-floor building, flat roof through the height limits, a cost estimate of $13.3 million, and the residents dislike the look and fit of the design in our community. So we started from the beginning. But our next one is our April presentation, in which they did revise the roof line and brought the character together a lot more with the cupolas on the ends and the filling in the bottom and the pitch roof all over the flat roof. However, this design exceeded our allocation. We just couldn't afford this particular design and build it. Again, in the form, continuation of design, this is when the consultant introduced us to the, I guess, the metal building approach. And all the metal buildings have a flat roof or almost flat roof. And this just doesn't fit it. I mean, it looks really plain. The flat roof just doesn't look like it doesn't fit here, I'm sorry to say. And I think we can do better. And that's what we obviously made the designer mad a few times. But of course, anytime you tell somebody design is ugly, well, it doesn't work, I guess. They held their tongue. I will acknowledge they did a great job in working with us, and especially some of our comments. The next one was the final design. This is what we've come back with. something that we're close to budget. It fits what I think is a character for here. We have a change in the roof line, that's an alternate, and I'll go over the alternates as how that affects the budget. We added the cupolas, mainly to add those to tie in with the existing missile tower. We felt that was important to bring that a part of the site, not just sitting that alone. And this way we can have the same color, and just make it work. Painted wood screening, again, to connect the building to the ground, and also not looking at chain link, but a board fence. This is just a non-treated wood siding that will be painted to match the building trim or building color. We haven't got all that far yet. So we raised the bays 1 and 2 to 14 feet, and the 3 and 4 with the fourth being an add-on to 10 feet. And this gives us the flexibility of those two trucks, the bigger trucks, that get in and out. It also gives enough flexibility or enough room in the bays. So if you've got your storage and you're trying to put on your equipment, somebody's trying to run by you put on the equipment to get to the truck, they're not knocking into each other. And that's important when you're trying to reach out to a fire. You have good room to get ready and prepare for it. The revised siding to apparatus bay, their initial run was to have a standing thing metal siding on the apparatus bay. No, we couldn't. We wanted it to match the rest of the building, bring it all together and make it look good. Revised window type was a saving, so we felt that was a good move regardless. And it really doesn't take away from the character of the building at all. This is the rendering of that particular final design, and this shows it coming off of Anderson. To the left of the screen up here is the end, and you can see the tower to the right. But I think this makes it looks nice. It looks like Topsail Beach. And I think it'll weather and stand the time. We will have these renderings again lined up with them. This is looking from the tower back, the end in the background, and you'll see a little on the very far side on the right hand side. There's a truck there, a tired truck. That's not part of the design. I think Sam had pulled it over and it might be still over here.
What are the plans for the tower?
The plans for the tower, we don't know. We couldn't connect.
Paint it and look at it.
We would paint it and look at it, but it does have access and it's got stairways in. The cost, if we connect it to the building, we've got to bring it up to code. That I don't know if we can do that and still keep the character. We have to flood through it and all of that. And then what is our use for it? Is it worth it? We looked at one time we looked at a stairwell and an elevator shaft, but the structural requirements of it it was built a long time ago. And I think we'd have to almost rebuild it to make it work. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the view from the tower. And this is the excellent view. And as to how this is the access into the police department. And for this, I think it looks pretty good. Sam's in agreement. Looks a little better than the. Well, next is the add alternate. We talked about the add alternates were a lot of it was cosmetic kind of sense. Anything without them, obviously, is it something you want to be proud of? Probably not, but that's where we are at this point. If you look at the roof line, that was to change that roof from a flat roof to a peaked roof and tie it in with the other was about $133,000. We go to the metal roof, and our initial was to have an asphalt roof on the main building and a metal roof on the fire station. It was always looked that way. So we looked at extending the metal roof, which we think is more durable in this climate, um, at that cost of about, again, 121,000. The two cupolas, we felt that brought it into character with the Topsail and made the site look like it was meant to be there and not just an add-on. 82 grand for both of those. The fourth bay, 221,000. Again, that's that 2.5 cents over the budget. Then the hardy plank siding to same around the building, replace that um, metal siding on the apparatus bay. We felt that was important as well to bring the building together. 53,000. The window type change was a savings of 62,000. And then the screenings at the bottom, uh, chain link a little bit less, but it would always be this year, it would always be chain link. And the screening was 79 to 50 boards and make it what we thought would look a little bit better. So the design build on this particular one, this is where that opportunity came in. Each time we made these changes and asked for them, within a day, they had prices back to us as to what we called and what the impact would be. So we all feel confident this is what the costs are at this point. So that goes into the timeline next. We did that. The timeline is we need to make a decision. We need to do it very quickly. We've got a period of time, as you can see, our final design needs to happen now. Our permitting and public bidding process is going to be continuous, but we need to get a point where we're ready to go. And now is the time. The construction and breaking ground, June of 27. We need to be under construction, and September. We can't have grand opening and breaking ground. So, yeah, September 26th would be the groundbreaking that we need to get moving on. So we need that time to get going. It's a pretty intense process. Permitting, some of it's good, some of it's in house, and the biggest thing on permitting is going to be storm water, and that takes 3 to 4 months to get it through the state. And so the grand opening in June 27, reach that point, which we'd like to have there. The next is the budget consideration. Hey, base building and schedule values. This is what last run we had of this. Our building right now outside of general conditions and fee, and the general conditions are contractors' cost of putting this all together, being their day-to-day scheduling, contractors maintaining their schedule, looking at making sure all the sites, what it costs to build a building, which you would pay a general contractor. So we're looking at a total amount of 8.9 million. So we were under budget with the base bid, and that's where we were targeting the whole way. We'd like to do less, but the cost savings we just couldn't find. So we're at a point now that this is where we ended up and where we are at this point. If the next one over is to add alternates. And again, went through those same alternates I had on the previous slide for the roof type, the window, design materials. And it turned out that it was about 656,600 add-ons that we would need. So that pushed the overall cost of the building up to about 9.6 million. So we're over budget by 600,000. And the budget consideration is how we're going to pay for it. And I think that's the way I'm looking at it. And we have a grant right now with the grant funds, $8,295,000. Projected interest from the first trying, as well as some of their model work. And this is based on what the contractor provided us with the schedule of his payments would be. So we're able to keep, and also we looked at what we were looking at interest, and we were able to run that so we kept the money in the account as long as we could to collect interest. So it was a good coordinated effort at that point. The loan amount included in the budget, we were going to have to take it to make up for the 9 million, about $438,000. That could come out of the CIP fund. We have total funds available, 9.1 billion. The building cost, 8.9, cost of add-ons for the apparatus bay, and also for the aesthetic purposes. The cost is specified. And if you look at specified or spec, it looks kind of weird, but the way it's is 9.6 million. So that's where we are. Estimated funds expended to date, 193. That's taken out of the 9.6. Remaining is 9.4. I'll say 9.5. We have estimated additional funds of 298,229 that can be funded internally. So there's no tax implication on this. We have the money, we can work through the time budget, and still we can pull this off. So a lot of grind, and I hope I wasn't confusing the thoughts or anything like that. But please, ask some questions. We need to have some answers.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
The bar. Okay.
Question, please.
We need to get up.
Sure.
I'm just gonna ask about the storage. Is that,
Yeah.
is that included in that?
If we have an allowance in your mind for the septic, we've got, there are two things going on. Can we do it on site? Which is amazing. The other is taking it from site over to where the police department is now, and have these buildings down, is another option. That seems to be the best option, to me, in terms of what I've known.
So you'd be looking at an additional,
Probably, well, no, it's not additional, it's built in. We have about 50,000.
so it's covered in it. Oh.
Yeah.
Dick Burrow, 507 Bridger. I'm just looking at the height. Is there a need for an elevator?
Public building, 2 floors, yes.
Yes, okay, and that was in there. I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's an elevator, I think on both, exit points.
Yeah.
We have to, for convenience for Sam as well, bringing up.
Okay,
Personnel.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there's just one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
It's
elevator.
not gonna take somebody handcuffed in an elevator. He told me that when I asked.
Say correct.
How old are you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anywhere the public would go, they would use.
Yeah, ADA requires that the building have an elevator. And I know a lot of people complained about the number of bathrooms. Bathrooms were cut by 40%.
And unisex. Please ask some questions.
What are the tax implications, real estate tax? What's going to do the millage go up? No?
No, and that's this will be paid out of pocket. We've got the grant funds and Connie's on top of this. In the tax increase that was done back in June, it contemplated that the town would borrow 438,000, I think it was, 20-year mortgage amortization type loan to get to the $9 million. So that's already baked in. And the cost of that is, what, Connie, less than $25,000 a year. It's over 25 years, it's not that much. There's extra funds. You notice we have a new town manager. We don't have an assistant town manager. So there's money that it could be paid out of the funds that we have. It could be taken out of CIP. It could be added to the loan that was contemplated, but it's not anticipated that taxes will need to increase at all to cover it at this 9.6 million level. And I'm speaking because I worked with Connie on running the numbers and being sure that there wouldn't be a tax surprise. The millage, that's a county thing. We have no control over them. Does that answer?
Please.
I add to that, what, does anybody calculate the maintenance cost of this building, the yearly maintenance cost to maintain it versus the current buildings we have? Obviously be more.
I don't know, we have not, but in looking at the previous amounts for the two buildings that we're doing now, it'd be too much more, if we have a new building that doesn't require the same maintenance structure that
We don't know if there's any additional cost to maintenance, maintaining that building, whether it's electric, water, all the offices and everything else.
we did analysis on the electric, and I think it's a 40% reduction. Wow.
Does that include air conditioning and heat in the bays?
Yeah, the efficiency of the air conditioning is so much greater now than what.
Because right now there's no air conditioning in the bays,
No, that-
but there will be in these bays.
Yes.
Okay. You would think it would be more just because it's a lot more space being.
But then you have the insulation that you have.
Right.
They can
More
lower the
efficient.
window,
Yeah, for sure.
close the door.
They keep the door closed.
So they have that open. I wish they could keep them closed forever.
How about this building? Is it stay the same?
It's gonna stay the same with it. You know, we, there was a choice made, to include town hall in this particular, project. So, this building will continue.
But it'll be renovated, and that's covered in the budget as well, is the cost of renovating this building. No increase in taxes, that's already baked into what was done in June.
Does the 9.6 include the fourth bay, or is that still an ad alternate?
Yeah, it includes the
It
fourth.
doesn't include the fourth bay.
What happens to the current firehouse?
It's gonna go to Public Works. Right now, they're at the,
Everywhere.
so it allows them, a central location and a little bit better working atmosphere.
Will we continue to put money into the EOC once we have a building on the island that will withstand both storms?
That's, we gotta deal with EOC, not EOC, EOC, yes, because the EOC is for off island, we have to vacate. And have a place to go. And our initial option over the years has been the Moose Lodge. Please don't send me back there. That's terrible.
But won't impact the EOC at all?
No,
This is not exactly a question. It is, I have to say, I'm impressed. I was gone all of July up to the mountains, and so I missed out on a lot of things, but I've had a lot of questions asked to me about what is happening on your island. And I have to say, there was a time when I was extremely concerned about what our leaders were going to end up with and what they're going to, I was a teacher. There's not any overload of money if you are a classroom teacher. I was smart enough to do other things. I didn't want to. I wanted to teach children, but I want to be able to live on this island that I love dearly. And I want to be able to answer questions for people that are very concerned about coming to our area to live here, as well as, I will tell you, I am so pleased with what I've seen today in comparison to some of the other things I've seen over time and how you guys have worked so hard to put all of this in place. I personally really appreciate it, and I'll be able to answer a lot of questions with heart.
Thank you. I gotta give her a check.
I've got a question back there.
Are there contingency line items in here for construction and all, and how much?
It's, I think it was 6%. And, something we find out a little bit later is that, in that contingency, if we don't spend it all, it comes back to us. And it doesn't go to the contract, even on a design build.
How often does that happen?
Well, I don't know, but it might.
Hate to be a cynic, but,
But I like that here, it might.
I'm all the time, just ask before.
But am I right? They're committing, they say, yes, we can build it for this. There will not be, oops, it came in, it's gonna be a couple of $100.
That's the thing, we're contracting with the builder itself, it's the builder building to that amount. The architect works with the builder, but is not liable for the construction. So that's, makes it a little bit easier, they can give us a not too clean type build. Of course, I like it. But, at least we have that option, that assurance.
I mean, just a comment, I have to say this is better. I'm still concerned that we're talking about 600,000 more than what was agreed, and voted on by the board. And while there may not be any additional taxes coming to pay for that, there may be money that's available to pull from it. If we use that money to pay for this, then that's money that's not available for other things that either come up in the budget process or are not expected. So then it puts us behind the eight ball, later on down the line. So I'm disappointed it's not less than 9 million.
Larry, the challenge with that was the way he described the building. They said what they needed. The team came back and said, we can't do all that. They cut it, to finally they said, this is what we need. The architects and the designers and the builders came back and said, okay, to build what the fire department and the police want that the town said they could have, here's what you get. And I looked at Frank and I said, that building's ugly. I said, to stand up in front of the residents and say, okay, we're giving the fire and police what they need at $9 million, but it's not an attractive building. And it doesn't look like something we would be proud of. I'll be honest, the $350,000 to me to make a building that everybody drives by and says, wow, that looks great. That looks like Topsail Beach. It was a trade-off I would be willing to do. And then on the $300,000 for the extra bay, it's given us room. I don't think the fire department was built. It was contemplated all of the water rescue equipment we've got now. We have 2 CDs, we've got a truck full of them. That's crammed over there in addition to the 3 fire trucks. And if we ended up and needed to put an ambulance in there, there's nowhere to go. So the $300,000 for that really is a bet to give us optionality going forward, in my view. So surprisingly, I was the design police that kept saying, no, that's ugly, that's ugly.
What do you?
There will be a $18,000 savings when we get that building, because we'll no longer be able to rent off site. So that's another $18,000 that we're paying now that can go to the upkeep of that building. That's per year right now. So this costs us about $18,000, and that don't count electricity. It's just $18,000 rent, and then whatever electricity is. So with the electricity and the rent, we're probably looking $25,000. Yeah, you go to maintenance.
Office space wise, is there room for growth?
Very little. We did look at, the possibility of community development into the building, and it just wasn't in the card or in the price.
I think our board has a continuing responsibility to see what we can learn from North Topsail and from Surf City. One is completed a project, one is in process, so that we can stay on whatever our ultimate budget number is to finish the building and to learn from them the additional cost for furniture and computers, things like that, window coverings, things that come at the very end of the project. I'm sure they have some helpful hints for us to tell us how that project went and what maybe some of the pitfalls are with our relationship with the design build team as we get underway and go through the project. So I'd like to see us keep that discussion and learning ongoing through the project.
I've sent out an email to North Topsail about their fire station and their issues with contractors, different contractors, but still the same issues. Just make sure we're not, let's learn from them and not learn ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, we did find out that, Surf City, had to buy new chairs, so everybody's sitting in new chairs that came from Surf City. The cost of these was very reasonable.
They're sitting there in allowance for furniture and
Yeah, for
for
100,000.
100,000, yeah.
We don't really know if that's gonna cover. That sounds like a lot, but I think we're agreed that, some of the furniture from this building will move over there. And there's things we don't know, like the internal communications wiring and stuff like that. They say they can provide the raceway, but we haven't talked to communications providers about what they're gonna cost, but the equipment that's not provided for in this contract into the new building. So we've got $100,000 contingency for stuff like that. But, we're not certainly gonna cover that. But, those are expenses that we might have to expense anyway, rather than provide capital for. So there's some gray areas.
And we have some very bright people that have a whole lot of knowledge about just those issues.
Please step forward.
Raise your hands and get involved.
We've also reached out to some people in reference to some more grant money. So in hopes that maybe we talked to a couple and so there may be some additional. We don't know. That's just a possibility, but we're going to keep trying.
You know what? We don't have to have new furniture. Everybody's got a desk and a chair and things can be upgraded over time. Somebody on the staff who I won't mention said, on Tuesdays, you can drive up and down. That's how no mattresses or sofas.
A couple of chairs out there right now.
Surprisingly, that's how, am I right, Bud? That's a lot of the furniture for the ESC was residents upgraded and donated.
And they'll let us know here, tell the people.
And we don't want our nice looking building to look like, a thrift store, but the staff has said they've got the bulk of what they need. And we just upgraded computers 2 years ago.
Frank? Joe and Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Sides, I haven't said a word yet. I'd like to hear from them about their thoughts about this.
Well, I was not on the committee. We appointed Anthony and John to, because like I said, get 5 people together as possible. We'd still be where we started out. We had 5 of us sitting trying to work that out. So I think they did have done a fabulous job. I know when we first started talking about this project years ago, when Steve was there, 13 million was the number we were looking at trying to get there. And that was before we even started to get plans and stuff. That was, so I think this group, these two and the staff and Frank have done a super good job. I think this is a building we'd be proud of. It'll be a building to be functional for us for years and years and years. And, I don't think we're gonna be able to get it much less than what we're looking at here. Yeah, but, it'd be always nice to be for less. But I think we got to be reasonable to what if we want what we want. I think, you know, what I didn't want to see us do, what I told Nancy and John Buff, I said, I don't want us to have to come out with a building that all we've done is taking the space that we had and put in a new building, but we still had old buildings that, you know, we hadn't gained anything. All we done was just put everything in a new building and not made anything any better. So I think they've come up with plans that we needed, and yeah, I think it's a good job. I think they did a good job.
I'd just like to add to one about the maintenance question, and you know, Joe just mentioned we're doing things new. We did ask the maintenance question specifically about things like what's going to take to maintain this building, provide the heat, and all of that. And their answer was very clear. Building standards today are so much better, so much more efficient than they were when all of the other town buildings were built over 50 years ago, that the maintenance demands, power demands, all that are going to be much lower than what we see today, simply because of improved building standards. That came right straight from the engineers that are designing these buildings.
I just got a text, asking that the speakers please go to the podium so the people watching can hear your questions. Well, my biggest concern, I said it last year, the septic and overall the overrun of what this building's gonna cost. I know that one of those police, fire departments that we spoke of, John mentioned, is over budget and not on schedule. I'm just really concerned about the overrun of the budget that this board agreed to. I'd like to see us do 3 bays and leave the property there for the future to build a 4th bay if we need it. I think listening to what I'm hearing, listening to the staff's recommendations is fine. If I was Sam or Bo, I'd ask for everything too. I think everybody else would ask for whatever they could get. I'm really concerned about the EMS with Pender County. And John, could you give me that figure, what we pay as a town? That's the Pender.
$750,000.
$750,000 of your tax dollars goes to EMS. And I believe we talked to them and they pretty much said they were not moving EMS out of here. There's extra bays over there. I don't see why we can't negotiate if we need to put the beach, which is a seasonal thing, in storage and over there versus building a bay for that. I just think that bay's the 4th bay. I don't think I've ever seen a fire station with 4 bays. So the EMS is an alternative that we could talk to save some money. I think that we can do that. Taking funds, as mentioned, from other funds. We're just taking it from somewhere that we already have allocated for something, for a goal. I don't think we need to do that. We all voted for $9 million. I said last year, we should probably build an $8.5 million and hope it's under budget. Because I don't know, I do a little remodeling, I do big remodeling, it's never what they say. I don't know if anybody else does it. If you do, let me know who your contractors are. But everything's going up. We don't know what costs are going to be in 2027. How much everything's going to go up. So I think everybody understands where I stand. I think we said 9 million. Let's use the extra interest, but let's put some cushion in there. We don't need to tax everybody on something that we know might happen. And if we could delay building something that we don't need right now and adding on to this building in the future, why wouldn't we do that? Why do we have to have everybody that lives in the town now pay for this building for the future? Let everybody that comes here growing, let everybody put into it, pay for it. We got 2 more years. So,
I'd just like to comment some on what Tim has said. First, I fully support the proposal that you've seen tonight to spend in the range of 9.6 million to provide a public safety building for us. And it's my intent to vote on affirmative on Thursday when we take a final vote on this. Larry, you raised good questions about why did we go above the 9 million as Sam is doing. The 350,000 or so for the, what we call the aesthetic, costs to put primarily the, gabled roof on top of this building instead of a flat roof. That was a clear demand from residents, from you and all of your neighbors, or almost all of them, to make this building look better than what it was initially presented as a flat roof. And personally, I wouldn't accept a flat roof, but I listened to the residents and I heard from most of the people that they want something that looks really nice and like Topsail Beach. So we sweated over this, talked a lot about it, but we came up with, we need to put this roof on there and you can't do it cheaper. So there's $250,000 to try and make this building. Now, some parts of the roof are better recommended for hurricane than the flat roof. A gabled or hip roof is much better for hurricanes because of the wind flow. A standing seam metal, which is what the entire roof is clearly better than a cheap metal roof where you just lay the metal sheets on top of each other. So there's good hurricane protection in what we're doing on the roof, but mostly we're spending that $350,000 because we believe that that's what Topsail Beach residents want. As far as the fourth phase, yeah, we talked a lot about that, and I can tell you that the staff, and you can figure out who that is, are very vocal that the fourth phase is important to the fire department operations because of the room that they will have that they don't have in the current building. I was one of the ones who went over and watched them back that truck in. I watched them put their turnout gear with the big heavy stuff that they have to put on fast. And the way it is over there right now, you got 2 guys who are standing like this far apart trying to get their turnout gear on in a space that's about as wide as this podium. And that is just very difficult. And boss, if you would like to comment on that, I'd welcome your comment. But
things are true.
The room that these guys need to put on their gear is very important, and also to handle all the stuff that's over there in that fire department is very important. And it's hard to see in those pictures you just saw, but behind the fire truck, we've got jet skis, ATVs, and other big fire department equipment crammed in there. Today, there's doors at the back of those bays. In the new building, there'll only be one door, and that's for the biggest fire truck to pull through from the back. All the rest of the bays don't have doors in the back. That's because we talked about it and said, this is an expense we're going to leave out. So we have tried to keep the costs down as best as we could. And unfortunately, yeah, we went over the 9 million, but we could have said, there's a building that they can build for $9 million. That was 8.989, something like that. But it was not what this town needs. We can build a building that we can call a public safety building, but it doesn't meet needs of the residents or of people who have to work there and protect them. So it's my intent to vote for this. And I hope the other commissioners will support that kind of a software that I just
One of our challenges is we did look at adding the fourth bay later on. We asked them to go run the numbers and look at, could you design structurally? So that was an option later on. And they said, absolutely. But the cost of it and tying it into the existing building made it make no sense whatsoever. The 200 plus 221, I think it is, for adding the fourth bay is 2.5% of the budget. I'm a numbers person, and that's what I looked at, is 2.5% to give us flexibility, to give them the room that they feel they need today for their existing equipment and optionality for what's needed going forward. I look at kind of like you're building a house, and somewhere you got to draw the line on your budget. But you want people to look at your house as they drive by and say, wow, that looks nice. And you also don't want them to walk in the door and go, wow, cheap linoleum cabinets in an expensive house and a nice kitchen. We wanted it to look right and to build so it will accommodate in the future. To me, adding the fourth bay today, I was against it. I went over and saw the presentation. I took them a chance to back a truck in, and I passed quickly. It's crowded over there, and Bo had offered to say, do I want to open it and let all the public come over and see that? It's intrusive. We thought about showing a video, but when I looked at the cost versus what it gives us long-term, we aren't building this to provide for what we need the next 5 years. Yeah, this building's been here, what, Frank, 50 years? We're looking for something that will sustain what Topsail Beach needs in the future. And it is not a matter of borrowing from other funds. Connie's already said once before, she will kick no cans down the road. It is making sure that we have the money on hand. There will not be an increase in taxes for this building. By using a design build firm, I think they said, Frank, by December, they'll have their firm cost. And then it's a matter of the contingency. If we change something, that's going to drive up the cost. I think the team's already looked at what will go if prices go up. Because I personally said, if we come to this and I feel comfortable financially, 9.6 is affordable, I'm not willing to go back to the residents and say, it was 10, so sorry. And I think that's one of the things all three of us in looking at this have looked at is what could be the surprises. And he's right. North Topsail's had surprises, but they also are using a separate building concept as opposed to our design build.
I'd just like to add one more thing. We did not roll over for Thomas Construction on this. They have listened very carefully to all of you and to us in these meetings that Frank described. And they've come back recommending things like, instead of a concrete podium, we're going to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars by using something called gypcrete, which is just as good. They came back, recommended, instead of designing and building the fire building, the apparatus building, we're going to use a pre-engineered building, which is much less expensive. So they have worked with us through some pretty intense meetings, trying to get the cost down to where they said, yes, we can deliver you a building for $9 million, because they could. After they had decided they could make some changes in what they were recommending. But then we, the staff and Chiefs, and Nancy and I have worked with them to say, yeah, this additional stuff is important. And that's the money for the fourth bay, the money for the roof appearance, and so on. This has not been an easy process for us. I've said that, right?
There's a question.
Yeah.
I'm not to the podium, or Frank, repeat the question.
I know this is just a rendering, but was the landscaping, design, installation, and maintenance included in your budget?
The Oh, that's a good question. This is about the landscape budget and maintenance. We're gonna fill up the site. It's not gonna be much outside of grass around the building. We might have the traditional shrubs at the foundation to bring the building back, but maintenance will probably be at a minimum level, that mainly grass mowing.
But no, it will not look cold and stark like that rendering. Yeah.
Just not much room left.
We tried to get them to put something in it for the rendering, and they said with the time constraints, this was as close as they could come. You look at the tower in the renderings closely, it looks a little bit speckled. It will not look speckled.
That was hard for me because I'm a landscape architect. I was hard to learn on that one.
Well, and as you know too, landscaping can up the look of a property and lack of it can bring a nice property down.
Yeah, I think a lot of that will be accomplished over time once we get it in the ground.
Penny Road, 507 Bridgers. What a lot of work you went through to get to where we are today. And we all knew that we needed these improvements, and I feel you nailed it. I think that aesthetically it looks well. I couldn't really see the floor plan and that sort of thing yet, but I look forward to seeing that. I would just like us to see if we can get some revenue out of some of the buildings that we're not going to be using, and not have half of our downtown be town property. We just could expand the downtown a little bit. We could rent some of those buildings and get some revenue coming in for that. I don't know what is going to be available. I mean, I think the old police station should be available. I don't know about I'm not up on each of the buildings that we own, but we own quite a bit. And the fact that the tower, we don't know what we're going to do with the tower when people have lived there for years and it's been a resident. I don't know. I just think that we need to think outside the box and see if we can generate some revenue with the properties that we own.
I mean, what you're saying excites me, the future. It makes me think that this project has been at times so overwhelming that we've had blinders on because we need to get past this, or we need to get the shovels in the dirt.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're moving forward, we're moving on, so that we can look to the other capital needs and beautification needs of the town. So I think that we're all going to have some great ideas on what you talked about moving forward after we get this huge project off and in the ground. So thank you for those comments. I agree with you.
The start date then would be a year from now, as far as breaking ground. That's what we're talking about, 1 year.
Yeah, hopefully, if we can improve on that, and it really depends on stormwater approval.
Okay.
And what we can go through. If they get a break and we can get an approval within a few months, and we off and running. I think we're under the threshold of the state having to look at building plans. So it's purely a county function. Stephanie, I'm asking on that. Building review plans, that would be under the county only, right?
I think there's a state requirement. Isn't that what they spoke about?
It's under 20,000 square feet.
It is? Okay, so then there's not that. It'll just be us.
But that can speed things along. Answer your questions quicker as you can.
Well, if also within a year with $8 million in a grant in the bank gaining interest, we'll be getting more revenue from that. That may be part of your presentation already?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just one other, what is the driveway material that is being proposed for the building?
For the police, for the fire department, it has to be concrete for their approach apron.
Okay,
Then we'd probably look at gravel parking on one side. Especially, you know how it is with the state,
Yeah.
with our roads, yeah. we
And
may have
that's all
gravel
a part
parking, not
of
sure,
the-
you know, I think the road by, between areas is a private, probably a town street, so we can have parking off of that, but Anderson, of course, is a state road, so you know how that goes.
and that is all included in the proposal, the driveway, what is already a part of it.
It is,
Okay,
all
Well-
site work.
thank you
So
again.
that brings up, while you're up there for Stephanie, what are the restrictions on the tower? I know people have lived there. But it's different if you're using it for something new, correct?
The number one problem is that we cannot make it ADA compliant.
Okay.
Then after that, you would have to gut the building basically and flood proof it, which who knows what that would take. I mean, an engineer would have to come in and tell us what we would need to do. And then electrical will have to be upgraded. And they are probably, I mean, everything.
But the marina building will be not used, Tom, when you move to the fire department, correct?
Somewhat.
Somewhat,
Not as important, but.
maybe something to think
We'll be
about.
able to get most of our stuff out of the marina, but even with the fire department, it won't house everything. But for the majority of the stuff will be removed from the marina.
That has a lot of potential.
We need more places where residents come together.
Alex Airway, 21 North Anderson Boulevard. Have you all considered, and I like what I see, it looks great. Except for the fourth bay. We are talking about building a bay or maybe down the road with EMS and for seasonal equipment. Could the seasonal equipment not be kept at the current firehouse? I hear the stories about how hard it is to get in, but we're dealing with that with water bays. That doesn't mean we need a fourth bay. So you have jet skis and trucks that are here in the summer that could be housed outside or in the current firehouse instead of having a third bay. Fourth bay, excuse me. I understand we have 3 fire trucks. 3 bays makes sense, but a fourth bay, in my mind, doesn't. You're talking about just storing stuff that isn't a fire truck. You said, Tom's talking about moving his things into the current firehouse. The seasonal things could be at the marina. We're talking about just shelters. We're not talking about heated square footage for a truck or a jet ski or a 4x4. I mean, a side by side, those kinds of vehicles. So I would revisit that if it was me.
That's it. I don't really know if you got. I'd rather not have unisex bathrooms. I think that's just that. We have men and women who are employed here, and I don't think we need to be having unisex bathrooms. Just want to add that.
How would you work through that?
Well, how many female firemen do we have? So you'd have a women's bathroom, and then you'd need 2 men's bathrooms. In the plan, there are 2 bathrooms in the fire department, 2 in the police department, and 1 for the public in the lobby.
That won't be necessary to be done in the fire department because if we do have females, they'll be bunking with the males anyway. I mean, so basically.
Somebody I would say.
So the showers, they don't have showers in them. So being unisex for us is no problem.
I'll leave that alone. Any other questions? I'm back. We are gonna reconvene, we're gonna recess this for, until Thursday and reconvene. And, before we do, we got the poster boards and we can put them in the chairs, you don't have to lean down to look. So before you go, if you want to just take a look at them and write down any questions or whatever, give, I guess, Christina a call as well. And then Thursday, we can go back at it. And, we're expecting to vote on Thursday. Oh, Thursday will be, 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
Yeah. Everybody's got to get up early.
So please email everyone if you have questions, observations, concerns.
And I.
It's a different.
Looking on there or let someone know the link on that. So, any more questions before I move forward?
I think so.
Thank you all here.
Thank you.